The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, buried between reports about mining operations on Mars and complaints about the coffee machine on Deck 7. Ambassador almost deleted it by accident. She had been working for the United Earth Diplomatic Corps for 23 years, and she had never seen anything like it. An invitation to the Galactic Concord Peace Summit, the 47th one, apparently. Humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 80 years ago, and in all that time the aliens had kept their distance. They watched from far away. They sent simple messages. They made it clear that humans were welcome to exist, but not welcome to visit. Now they wanted to talk. Read the invitation 6 times before she believed it was real. The summit would take place on a massive space station called the Concord, built in orbit around a dead star. 12 species would attend. Humanity was invited as an observer, which meant they could watch but not vote. It was not much, but it was something. It was a door opening after decades of silence. She assembled her team in 3 days. There was no time for politics or committee meetings. She picked people she trusted. Colonel James had served in the military for 40 years before retiring. He was 62 years old and still ran 5 miles every morning. He would handle security. Doctor was a linguist who spoke 9 human languages and had spent her career trying to decode alien transmissions. Dr. James was a physician with experience in space medicine. Lieutenant Commander Sarah was an engineer who had built half the systems on the Earth starships. 2 junior diplomats named Thomas and completed the team. 7 humans to represent 8 billion, hoped it would be enough. Their ship was called the Olive Branch and hated it immediately. It was a converted military frigate because Earth had nothing else that could make the journey. The passenger areas were comfortable enough, but the hull was thick with armor plating, and weapon systems had been hastily removed and covered with panels that did not quite fit. It looked exactly like what it was, a warship pretending to be peaceful. Complained to the ship's captain, a tired woman named who had made this modification in 72 hours without sleep. I wanted to send a message of peace, said. This ship sends a different message. Captain shrugged. It was this or nothing. The civilian transports can't handle the radiation near that dead star. This old girl was built to survive anything. Accepted this because she had no choice. The Olive Branch launched from Earth orbit on a bright morning, and the 7 diplomats watched their planet shrink to a blue dot, then disappear entirely. The journey took 11 days, spent most of it reading everything humanity knew about the other species. It was not much. They were the oldest, a species of tall beings with pale skin and large dark eyes. They had founded the Concord 12,000 years ago after a terrible war that nobody talked about. They were made of living crystal, beautiful and fragile. They were small and covered in soft fur, known for their intelligence and their careful analysis of everything. There were 9 others, each stranger than the last. None of them were predators. Noticed this on the 3rd day and mentioned it to Colonel. They're all prey species, she said. Herbivores, or they eat plants and small insects, nothing that hunts. Nodded slowly. He was reading the same files. Makes sense, I suppose. Predators might be too aggressive to form peaceful alliances. Accepted this explanation, but something about it bothered her. She could not say what. The Concord station appeared on their sensors on the 11th day. It was enormous, a ring of metal and glass surrounding a core of pure energy. The dead star at its center pulsed with strange light, and the station drew power from it like a plant drawing water from soil. Had never seen anything so beautiful or so alien. Olive Branch, you are cleared for docking, a voice said over the radio. It was translated by computer, flat and without emotion. Proceed to Bay 17. Welcome to the Concord. The ship slid into the station like a fish entering a cave, watched through the window as the docking bay surrounded them. Other ships were already there, strange shapes in silver and gold and colors she had no name for. The Olive Branch looked ugly beside them, brutal and gray and heavy. The docking clamps engaged with a solid thunk. Captain appeared at the airlock with a strange expression on her face. "There's a problem," she said. "The station's sensors scanned our hull during approach. Standard procedure, apparently. But now there's a lot of chatter on their communication channels. I can't translate most of it, but the computer flagged several words as concerning." "What words?" asked. Checked her tablet. "Warship, armor, weapons grade, and one I don't understand at all. Silence wars." Felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. What are the silence wars? No idea. But whatever they are, the aliens are very upset that our ship reminded them of it. Straightened her jacket and lifted her chin. This was why she had trained for 23 years. This was why she was here, to smooth over problems, to build bridges, to make friends. "It doesn't matter," she said firmly. "We're here in peace. We'll explain that our ship is simply what we had available. They'll understand." Colonel stood beside her, his face calm but his eyes alert. "And if they don't understand?" Did not answer. She pressed the button to open the airlock, and the door slid apart with a soft hiss. The air that flowed in was warm and smelled like flowers and something else, something electric and strange. Beyond the door, a corridor stretched into soft golden light. Figures waited there, tall ones and small ones, crystalline ones that caught the light and scattered it into rainbows. Dark eyes watched them, many dark eyes. Stepped forward. She smiled her warmest smile. She raised her hand in greeting. The figures pulled back, not much, just a small step, but noticed, and the cold weight in her stomach grew heavier. "Hello," she said, keeping her voice gentle. "We're so honored to be here. Thank you for inviting us." Nobody answered for a long moment. Then a stepped forward, taller than by 2 feet, its pale face unreadable. "Welcome, humans," it said. "We have waited a long time to meet you in person." Its voice was polite. Its words were kind, but saw something in its large dark eyes that she did not expect. Fear. The grand atrium was the largest room had ever seen. The ceiling rose so high that clouds formed near the top, soft white wisps drifting between pillars of polished stone. Gardens grew along the walls, filled with plants from a dozen different worlds. Fountains sang with water that glowed faintly blue. It was beautiful beyond words. It was also very quiet when the humans entered. Had expected noise. A peace summit with 12 species should be loud with conversation, with laughter, with the sounds of diplomacy happening in real time. Instead, every being in the room turned to watch the human delegation walk through the main doors. The silence was so complete that could hear her own heartbeat. She kept her smile fixed firmly in place. Diplomats did not show uncertainty. She walked forward, her team behind her, and approached the nearest group of aliens. They were beings made of living crystal. Their bodies caught the light and broke it into colors that danced across the floor. They were beautiful and told them so. "Your forms are stunning," she said warmly. "I've never seen anything so lovely." The ambassador made a sound like wind chimes. The translator in his ear converted it to words. "You are kind to say so." Extended her hand. It was a human gesture of greeting, one she had used 10,000 times in her career. "I'm ambassador. It's wonderful to meet you." The looked at her hand. Then it looked at her face. Its crystalline features shifted in a way that might have been confusion or might have been something else entirely. "You show your teeth," it said. Blinked. "I'm sorry." "When you speak, your mouth opens and we see your teeth. Is this normal?" Touched her lips, suddenly self-conscious. "I'm smiling. It's how humans show friendliness." They did not respond. It simply stared at her teeth for a long moment, then slowly backed away. Other followed. Soon there was empty space around the human delegation, a circle of nothing that grew wider with each passing second. Colonel leaned close to his ear. "Something's wrong." "I noticed," she whispered back. "Just keep smiling, keep being friendly. We'll figure this out." Doctor approached a group of who were watching from beside a fountain. He was a large man with warm brown skin and kind eyes, and his smile was the gentlest had ever seen. He asked about their journey to the station. He asked about their home world. He asked about their health. One of them mentioned feeling unwell. The artificial gravity of the station disagreed with its biology, it explained. Nothing serious. Nodded sympathetically. I understand completely. Space travel is hard on the body. Back on Earth, we have many ways to treat discomfort. Surgery for serious problems. Medicine for smaller ones. If the issue is very bad, we can even replace organs with healthy ones from donors. This large dark eyes grew larger. Replace organs. Yes, transplants. Hearts, kidneys, livers. We take them from one body and put them in another. Modern medicine can do wonderful things. The looked like it might fall over. Its companions grabbed its arms to steady it. And for diseases, continued helpfully, we have treatments like chemotherapy. We introduce controlled poisons into the body to kill harmful cells. It's not pleasant, but it works. Poisons, the whispered. You put poisons inside yourselves, on purpose. When necessary, yes. The body is remarkably resilient. Doctor joined the conversation, eager to practice her translation skills. She mentioned casually that human bodies maintain their temperature through burning food internally, a constant process that never stopped. She explained that humans needed oxygen to survive, the same gas that fed fires. She noted that human eyes faced forward rather than to the sides. Like a predator, one of them said quietly. Paused. I suppose so, yes. Humans evolved as persistent hunters. We would chase prey across long distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. Our ancestors could run for days without stopping. They made no sound, they simply stared. Across the room, Colonel was having his own conversation with a group of. The small furry beings had asked polite questions about his role in the delegation. He had answered honestly. I served in Earth's military for 40 years, he said. Infantry mostly. A lot of walking, a lot of running. Even now I try to stay active. I run every morning, lift weights when I can. The body needs movement to stay healthy. One of them was taking notes on a small device. You have pursued prey on foot for 40 years. Laughed. No, I was a soldier, not a hunter. I fought in wars. Wars. Conflicts, battles, organized violence between human groups. He shrugged. Earth's history has a lot of them. We're not proud of it, but we've learned from our mistakes. This note-taking grew more frantic. You fought wars against other humans, your own species. Unfortunately, yes, for thousands of years, we're trying to do better now. And you survived, for 40 years, in a profession of organized violence. Nodded, missing the horror in this voice. I was lucky. Lost some friends along the way, but that's the job. You learn to keep moving forward. They looked at each other. One of them whispered something that the translator did not catch. By the end of the first hour, the human delegation stood alone in the center of the grand atrium. Every other species had retreated to the edges of the room, watching from safe distances. Conversations happened in hushed tones. Many eyes watched. Many hands trembled. Gathered her team and kept her voice low. Something is very wrong. They're afraid of us. That's ridiculous, Thomas said. He was young and eager and he did not understand yet. We've done nothing threatening. We've been perfectly polite. I know, said. That's what worries me. Across the room, the ambassador was speaking urgently into a communication device. Could not hear the words, but she saw the fear in its crystalline face. She saw the way its body trembled, sending fractured light dancing across the walls. The ambassador ended its call and stood very still. Then it turned and looked directly at. Their eyes met across the vast space of the grand atrium. This expression was clear even without translation. It was the look of someone who had realized, too late, that they had made a terrible mistake. Did not understand, they had come in peace, they had smiled, they had been kind. What had they done wrong? The alarm came 3 hours into the summit's first formal session. Was sitting in the observer section, watching the other species debate trade routes and border agreements. The humans had no vote, so they simply listened and learned. It was boring work but necessary. Then the lights turned red and everything changed. A voice echoed through the chamber in a dozen languages. Coolant leak in the lower maintenance sections. Radiation levels rising. All delegates must proceed to evacuation points immediately. The other species rose from their seats in calm, orderly fashion. They had done this before, realized. Emergency drills were probably common on a station this old. Guards appeared to direct traffic. Engineers spoke into devices. Everything happened smoothly and without panic. Gathered her team and followed the crowd toward the exit. But something made her stop. A conversation between two engineers, spoken quietly but just loud enough for her translator to catch. How long until the radiation reaches critical levels? 2 hours, maybe less. And the repair? 6 hours minimum. We need to bring specialized drones from the outer ring. The conditions down there are too dangerous for biological life. Turned to Lieutenant Commander. Did you hear that? Nodded, her eyes were already calculating. 2 hours until critical, 6 hours to fix it. That math doesn't work. No, agreed, it doesn't. They pushed through the crowd, moving against the flow of evacuating delegates. Colonel followed without question. The others hesitated but waved them toward the evacuation point. Go with the others. We'll catch up. The three humans found the engineers near a sealed doorway marked with warning symbols. The engineers looked up in surprise as approached. What's the situation? Asked. Really? The lead engineer hesitated. The coolant system has ruptured. Radiation is building in the lower sections. We cannot send workers down there. The exposure would be fatal. How fatal? What kind of radiation? The engineer blinked. Gamma radiation. Several hundred times the lethal dose for most species. Even with protection, organic life cannot survive more than a few minutes. Was already reaching for her equipment bag. She had brought it out of habit, an engineer's instinct to always be prepared. Inside were tools, emergency supplies, and 2 radiation suits that humans used for deep space repair work. What if someone could survive down there? Asked. What needs to be done? The engineer stared at her. That is not possible. Humor me. The main coolant pipe has ruptured. It needs to be sealed. A simple weld would do it, but someone would need to hold the pipe closed while another performed the repair. It would take perhaps 30 minutes. But the radiation. We brought suits, said. She pulled them from her bag and held them up. Rated for solar flare exposure. We use them for repairs on the outer hull of starships. Was already taking off his jacket. I'll hold the pipe, you do the welding. Grab's arm. Wait, is this safe? Looked at her honestly. No, we'll get a significant dose, but our suits will block most of it and human bodies can handle more radiation than most species. We might be sick for a few days afterward, maybe some long-term monitoring, but we won't die. You're certain? Reasonably certain. Looked at, the old soldier was already halfway into his suit, his movements quick and efficient. He had made his decision. Go, said, fix it, come back alive. The engineer opened its mouth to protest. Words came out but did not hear them. She was too busy watching her people disappear through the sealed doorway into a corridor that glowed with deadly light. The evacuation center had screens. Everyone watched. The camera showed the lower maintenance section, a maze of pipes and machinery bathed in the sick green glow of radiation. Warning indicators flashed constantly. Numbers climbed on readouts that measured exposure levels. Then 2 figures appeared. Humans in bulky suits, moving through the toxic environment like it was a minor inconvenience, carried her welding equipment, carried nothing but his own determination. They found the ruptured pipe. Coolant sprayed into the air, mixing with radiation to create a mist that would have killed him in seconds. Did not hesitate. He grabbed the pipe with both hands and pulled the edges together, his boots sliding on the wet floor as he fought against the pressure. The radiation alarm screamed louder. The numbers on the exposure readouts climbed higher. Every species in the evacuation center watched in frozen horror. Raised her welder and began to work. Sparks flew, metal glowed, the seconds stretched into minutes. 47 minutes after they entered, the two humans emerged from the lower section. They unsealed their helmets and breathed deeply of the clean air. His face was red and sweating, looked tired but satisfied. "Pipes fixed," she said. "You should have full coolant flow in about 10 minutes." Nobody spoke. The evacuation center was utterly silent. Doctor rushed forward with a medical scanner. He ran it over both of them, studied the readings, and nodded. "Elevated exposure, but within acceptable limits. I want both of you on monitoring for the next 2 weeks. No alcohol, plenty of fluids, and get some rest." Laughed. "I could use a beer, actually." "After the monitoring period," said firmly. Looked around at the other delegates. The engineers were frozen in place. The ambassador had turned a strange color. The delegation was clustered together, their small bodies trembling. "Is everyone all right?" asked. "The station is safe now. The summit can continue." The speaker stepped forward. Its voice was barely a whisper. "You walked into lethal radiation. You touched the pipe with your hands. You stayed for nearly an hour in conditions that would have killed any of us in moments." Nodded. "Yes, is that a problem?" Did not answer. It simply stared at the two humans who stood before it, tired and sweating and very much alive. The delegate pulled out its recording device with shaking hands. It deleted something from its notes. Then it typed a single word. "Apex." The word hung in the air like a judgment. Did not understand its meaning, but she understood the weight of it. Something had changed, something fundamental. The humans had meant to help. They had succeeded. But in doing so, they had revealed something about themselves that they had never thought to hide. They were not like the other species. They were something else entirely. And now everyone knew it. The meeting happened at midnight station time. 12 species gathered in a small conference room, speaking in whispers as if the walls might hear. The humans were not invited. Speaker stood at the head of the table, its pale face grave. It had called this meeting because someone had to. The fear in the room was too thick to ignore. "We need to discuss the humans," it said. "Discuss?" The ambassador's voice rang like breaking glass. "What is there to discuss? You saw what they did. They walked through radiation that would have killed us all. They held burning metal with their bare hands. They laughed about it afterward." "They saved the station," the delegate said quietly. "They saved all of us." "That is what concerns me most." This crystalline body flickered with agitated light. "Why did they help? What do they want from us?" Speaker raised a hand for silence. "Let us share what we know. Perhaps together we can understand what we are facing." The delegate activated a holographic display. Data filled the air, collected from human broadcasts, intercepted communications, and careful observation over the past 80 years. "The humans evolved on a world they call Earth," the delegate began. "We have studied this world from a distance. It is difficult to describe." The hologram showed a blue planet, beautiful at first glance. Then the images changed. Earthquakes splitting the ground open, volcanoes covering the sky with ash, hurricanes spinning across vast oceans, tsunamis washing away entire coastlines. "Their planet is tectonically active," the continued. "The ground beneath them moves constantly. They have learned to build structures that bend rather than break, but entire cities have been destroyed by earthquakes throughout their history." The next images showed creatures: lions with massive teeth, crocodiles lurking in dark water, wolves hunting in packs, sharks circling in the deep. The planet is filled with apex predators, the delegate said, creatures that kill efficiently and without mercy. Any one of these would be the deadliest thing on most of our worlds. Humans share their planet with hundreds of them. A whispered something that sounded like a prayer. But that is not the most remarkable part. This voice was soft with wonder. The humans did not simply survive these predators, they befriended them. The hologram showed a human sitting beside a wolf, not fighting it, not fleeing from it, simply sitting together, the human's hand resting on the creature's head. They call them dogs now, the delegate explained. Humans took wolves, the most efficient pack hunters on their world, and domesticated them. They sleep beside these predators. They trust them with their children. They love them. The room was silent. This information was beyond understanding. What kind of species looked at a killer and decided to make it family? Their biology is equally disturbing, the continued. They generate heat internally by burning consumed matter. Their bodies operate at temperatures that would cause tissue damage in most species. They require constant intake of oxygen, the same element that feeds fire. They consume capsaicin, a chemical that plants develop specifically as a defense mechanism against being eaten. Humans eat it for pleasure. Their eyes face forward, another delegate added. Like all predator species, they are built to pursue prey. And pursue they do. The showed footage of humans running, marathon races, ultra-distance competitions, humans running for hours, for days across deserts and mountains and frozen wastelands. Their ancestors hunted through persistence. They would follow prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They never stopped. They never gave up. They simply kept coming. Speaker closed its eyes. And the wars. The hesitated. Yes, the wars. Humans have fought each other constantly throughout their history. They have developed weapons capable of destroying their entire civilization. They have used some of these weapons. Millions of their own kind have died in organized violence. They killed their own species, the said. Millions of them, and they are still here. They are still here, the agreed. Whatever war brings to them, they survive, they adapt, they come back stronger. The hologram faded. The room fell into heavy silence. So, Speaker said finally, we face a species of pursuit predators. They evolved on a death world surrounded by killers, and they befriended those killers. They burn internally. They poison themselves for enjoyment. They survive radiation that would kill any of us. They have fought wars against themselves and emerged unified enough to reach the stars. And they are being nice to us, the ambassador said. That is what I do not understand. Why are they so nice? The question hung in the air. Nobody had an answer. Far away in the humans' temporary quarters could not sleep. Something was wrong at this summit. The other species were polite but distant. They flinched when humans approached. They watched with wide eyes and trembling hands. She decided to find answers. The ambassador was alone in one of the station's garden areas, its crystalline body reflecting the light of artificial stars. Approached slowly, giving the ambassador plenty of time to flee if it wanted to. It did not flee. It simply watched her come closer, and something in its posture spoke of resignation. "May I sit with you?" asked. The ambassador gestured to a nearby bench. "If you wish." They sat in silence for a long moment. The garden was beautiful, filled with flowers from worlds we'd never see. Water trickled somewhere nearby. The artificial stars twinkled overhead. "I need to understand something," said finally. "Have we done something wrong? Have we offended you in some way?" The ambassador was quiet for so long that thought it would not answer. Then it spoke, its voice soft and musical. "You have not offended us, ambassador. You have terrified us." Blinked, terrified how? "You do not know what you are, do you?" The ambassador turned to look at her fully. "You do not understand what we see when we look at you. We came in peace. We want friendship. We want to learn." "I believe you." The ambassador's voice was gentle. "That is what makes it so frightening. You genuinely do not understand. Leaned forward. Then help me understand, please. The ambassador made a sound that might have been a sigh. You smile at us. Do you know what your smile looks like to species who evolved as prey? You bare your teeth. You show us the weapons in your mouth. And you do it as a greeting. His hand rose to her lips without thinking. You survived radiation that would have killed any of us, the ambassador continued. You held burning metal in your hands. Your companion spoke of 40 years of warfare as if it was simply a job. Your physician described putting poison into bodies and cutting out organs as normal medicine. It paused. You are apex predators, ambassador. Everything about you says predator. Your eyes, your persistence, your resilience, your ability to survive anything the universe puts in your path. But we don't want to hurt anyone, said desperately. We came here looking for friendship. I know. The ambassador's voice was almost kind. That is perhaps the most terrifying part of all. You crossed the vast emptiness of space, alone, because you wanted company. You tamed wolves because you wanted friends. You survived a death world and came out of it hopping to find someone to share the universe with. Felt tears forming in her eyes, though she did not fully understand why. We were alone for so long. When we discovered other life existed, we were so happy. We thought. We hoped. You hoped you would not be lonely anymore. Nodded, unable to speak. The ambassador reached out one crystalline hand and, very gently, touched his arm. It was the first time any alien had voluntarily touched a human since the summit began. I think, the ambassador said slowly, that perhaps we have been looking at this wrong. We saw predators and we were afraid, but predators can also be protectors. Pack hunters do not only kill, they also care for their pack. Wiped her eyes. We just want to belong. I know. The ambassador's hand remained on her arm, cool and smooth as glass. And perhaps, ambassador, that is exactly what this galaxy needs. A species that walks through fire to help strangers. A species that befriends wolves and tames death worlds and crosses the stars because they cannot bear to be alone. You're not afraid of us anymore. The ambassador made the wind chime sound that was its species' laughter. I am absolutely terrified of you, but I am beginning to think that might be a good thing. The final session of the summit began with unusual tension. The great chamber was full, every seat occupied, every eye watching as the human delegation entered and took their places in the observer section. Walked with her head high, but her heart was pounding. Speaker rose to address the assembly. The ancient moved slowly, its pale form catching the light as it stepped to the central podium. Before we continue with regular business, it said, there is a matter we must address. The human delegation has requested permanent membership in the Galactic Concord. As is custom, we shall hear arguments for and against, then vote. Had not expected this. She had submitted the request as a formality, hopping for acceptance as observers for another decade or two. Full membership was beyond anything she had imagined. The chamber was silent. Then the ambassador rose. I will speak first, it said. Its crystalline voice carried through the room like music. Many of you know that I have had concerns about the humans. These concerns were based on observation of their biology, their history, and their behavior since arriving at this station. Held her breath. Here it came, the rejection she had been dreading. These concerns were valid, the ambassador continued. The humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They are pursuit predators from a death world. They survive conditions that would kill any of us. Their history is filled with violence against their own kind. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Teams shifted uncomfortably beside her. And yet, the ambassador turned to look directly at the humans. When our station faced disaster, they did not flee. They did not calculate risks and costs. They put on suits and walked into radiation that should have killed them. They held burning pipes in their hands and fixed what was broken. The chamber fell silent again. I have spoken with Ambassador, they said. I asked her why humans came to the stars. Do you know what she told me? She said they were lonely. Billions of beings on their death world and they felt alone. So they built ships and crossed the void, hopping to find someone to talk to. The ambassador's crystal form glowed softly. The humans did not come here to conquer. They did not come to dominate. They came because they wanted friends. And when we needed help, they helped. Not because we asked, but because that is what humans do. They find things that need protecting and they protect them. The ambassador sat down, felt tears threatening again. The delegate rose next. Its small furry body looked almost comical at the large podium, but its voice was strong. I study species, it said. It is what my people do. We observe, we record, we analyze. I have spent the past several days studying humans more intensely than any subject in my career. It activated a small hologram. The image showed a human child hugging a dog twice its size. Humans domesticated wolves, the delegate said, not through force but through patience, through sharing food and warmth, through trust. The most efficient pack hunters on their world became their companions because humans offered them something worth more than prey. They offered them family. The image changed. A human firefighter carrying a child from a burning building. A human doctor treating patients in a disaster zone. A human soldier carrying a wounded ally across a battlefield. Humans protect, the delegate said simply. It is in their nature. When they see something weaker than themselves, something in danger, they do not walk away. They help. Sometimes they die helping, but they help anyway. The delegate looked at the assembly with its large, intelligent eyes. The galaxy has known peace for 12,000 years because we avoid conflict. We run from danger. We survive by being careful. But what happens when danger comes that we cannot run from? What happens when being careful is not enough? It gestured toward the human delegation. Now we have a species that runs toward danger, a species that survives anything, a species that makes friends with wolves and walks through radiation and crosses the stars because they hate being alone. It paused. I think we need them. I think the galaxy needs protectors who are willing to do what we cannot. The delegate returned to its seat. More silence followed. Speaker looked around the chamber. Does anyone wish to speak against membership? Nobody rose. The silence stretched on. Then we shall vote, the speaker said. All in favor of granting full membership to humanity. Hands rose, arms extended, appendages lifted. One by one, every delegate in the chamber signaled approval. The vote was unanimous. Stood frozen. Her team stared in disbelief. This was not possible. This was beyond anything they had dreamed. Ambassador, speaker said, will you address the assembly? Walked to the podium on legs that felt like water. She looked out at the faces watching her, and 9 other species, all of them waiting, all of them watching. She had prepared no speech. She had not expected to need one. Thank you, she said. Her voice cracked slightly and she did not try to hide it. Humanity has made many mistakes. We have hurt each other. We have hurt our world. We carry the weight of wars and cruelty and failure in our history. She took a breath. But we have always tried to do better. We have always reached for something more than what we were. When we found the stars, we hoped we would find wisdom there. We hoped we would find guidance. We hoped we would find friends who could help us become the species we wanted to be. She looked at the ambassador who had touched her arm in the garden. She looked at the delegate who had called her species protectors. She looked at Speaker, whose ancient eyes held something that might have been hope. We did not come here to lead, said. We did not come here to dominate. We came here to belong. And if you will have us, we will spend every day of our membership trying to be worthy of the trust you have shown us. She stepped back from the podium. The chamber erupted in sounds she did not recognize, but the emotion behind them was clear. Approval, welcome, relief. Colonel was standing near the back of the chamber. He had been watching the proceedings quietly as he always did. Now he noticed something. A small figure, no higher than his knee, was staring up at him with eyes like polished gems. A child, brought to the summit by one of the diplomats. The child looked terrified, understood. He was big and strange, and his eyes faced forward like a hunter's. He knelt down slowly, making himself smaller. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small piece of wrapped candy, chocolate. He had brought it from Earth, a reminder of home. "Hey there," he said softly. "Don't be scared, we're friendly." The child hesitated, unwrapped the chocolate and broke off a small piece. He held it out on his palm, the way you might offer food to a nervous animal. The child reached out with tiny crystal fingers. It took the chocolate. It looked at the strange brown substance for a moment, then put it in its mouth. The effect was immediate. The child's crystalline body began to hum, a sound of pure pleasure. Its facets caught the light and scattered rainbows across the floor. It looked up with wide, delighted eyes. "I like them," the child said to its parent. "The humans, I like them." Smiled, his teeth showing. This time nobody flinched. 1 year later, a distress call echoed across the stars. A colony on the edge of known space was under attack. Pirates had come, brutal and desperate, and the colony had no defenses. The nearest conquered patrol was days away. The colony had hours at most. Then a ship appeared from nowhere, dropping out of faster-than-light travel with a flash of light. It was gray and angular and covered in armor plating. It was human. The pirate fleet turned to face this new threat. They outnumbered the human ship 10-1. They armed their weapons and prepared to destroy this interference. On the colony below, the children ran to the windows. They had heard stories about humans, strange beings from a death world who walked through fire and befriended wolves, scary beings who smiled with their teeth showing. The human ship did not wait for the pirates to attack. It moved forward, fast and confident, weapons coming online. Captain James, formerly colonel, stood on the bridge and watched the enemy approach. "Open a channel," he said, "all frequencies." His communications officer nodded. "Channel open." Leaned forward slightly. "This is captain of the Earth vessel Protector. The colony below is under conquered protection. You have 30 seconds to leave this system, or we will remove you permanently." The pirates did not respond with words. They responded with weapons fire. Energy beams streaked toward the human ship. The Protector dodged. It was faster than anything that size should be, built by a species that had survived a death world and learned to fight. Its return fire was precise and devastating. One pirate ship exploded, then another, then a third. The remaining pirates fled. They scattered in all directions, engines at maximum power, running from the single ship that had broken their fleet in moments. On the surface of the colony, children cheered. Their crystalline bodies chimed with joy. The scary humans had come. The scary humans had saved them. Captain allowed himself a small smile. He had spent his whole life protecting things, his country, his fellow soldiers, his family. Now he protected entire worlds. "Helm," he said, "take us into orbit. Let's say hello to our friends." The Protector descended through the atmosphere, and below, thousands of crystalline beings gathered to meet it. They were still afraid of humans in a way. They would probably always be afraid. But they were also grateful. And as the ship landed and the humans emerged, smiling their strange predator smiles, the children ran forward to greet them. The galaxy had changed. The lonely predators from Earth had found their place among the stars. They had found their pack. And the cosmos would never be the same.